If you're over 65 and there's one thing you're doing every single morning that's slowly but systematically destroying your mental clarity, focus, and cognitive sharpness, you need to understand that this seemingly innocent habit is creating a cascade of neurological changes that make it harder for you to think clearly, remember important information, and maintain the mental agility that keeps you feeling like yourself. What I'm about to reveal might shock you because this morning ritual is so deeply embedded in most seniors' daily routines that they don't even think of it as a choice anymore. It's just something they automatically do upon waking, never realizing that each morning they're essentially programming their brain for confusion, mental fog, and cognitive decline that will persist throughout the entire day. The habit I'm talking about affects over 85% of seniors, and while it might seem harmless or even beneficial on the surface, it's actually one of the most devastating things you can do to your aging brain, especially in those crucial first moments after waking when your neural pathways are most vulnerable and receptive to the patterns you establish for the day ahead. Right now, as you're listening to this, your morning routine is either setting your brain up for optimal mental performance and crystal clear thinking, or it's sabotaging your cognitive abilities in ways that compound over time, making each day a little foggier, a little more confused, and a little more difficult to navigate with the mental sharpness you once took for granted. You see, what most people don't understand is that the first 30 minutes after waking are absolutely critical for your brain's daily reset and optimization process. This is when your brain transitions from the restorative sleep state to active consciousness, when it consolidates the memories from the previous day, and when it prepares the neural networks that will determine how clearly you think and how well you focus for the next 16 hours. But instead of protecting and nurturing this delicate transition, millions of seniors are unknowingly hijacking it with a habit that throws their brain into immediate chaos and sets them up for a day of mental struggle and cognitive confusion. The morning habit that's destroying your mental clarity is something so common that you probably did it this morning without even thinking about it, and you'll probably do it again tomorrow unless you understand what it's doing to your brain and why it's particularly damaging for seniors whose cognitive systems are already dealing with the natural changes that come with aging. Before I reveal what this habit is, I want you to think about how you feel mentally throughout the day. Do you notice that your thinking feels clearer and sharper at certain times and foggier at others? Do you find yourself struggling to concentrate on tasks that used to come easily to you? Or feeling like your mind is wrapped in cotton when you're trying to focus on something important? These fluctuations in mental clarity aren't just random occurrences or inevitable consequences of aging, they're directly connected to the patterns you establish in the first moments of your day, and the habit I'm about to expose is the primary culprit behind the mental fog that's robbing you of the sharp, clear thinking you deserve to maintain throughout your golden years. The habit that's destroying your mental clarity every single morning is immediately consuming caffeine, specifically coffee, the moment you wake up or within the first hour of getting out of bed. Now, before you dismiss this as impossible because you've been drinking coffee every morning for decades and it helps you feel more awake and alert, let me explain exactly what's happening in your brain when you flood it with caffeine before it's had a chance to properly complete its natural awakening process. You see, when you sleep, your brain naturally produces a chemical called adenosine, which builds up throughout the day and makes you feel tired, and during sleep, your brain works to clear this adenosine so you can wake up feeling refreshed and alert. But here's the crucial part. This adenosine clearing process continues for the first hour or two after waking, and during this time, your brain is also producing cortisol, your body's natural awakening hormone, which is designed to help you feel alert and focused without any external stimulation. When you immediately consume caffeine upon waking, you're essentially hijacking this natural process and preventing your brain from completing its own awakening sequence, which creates a dependency on external stimulation rather than allowing your brain to develop its own natural alertness and mental clarity. The problem is particularly severe for seniors because as we age, our brains become less efficient at processing caffeine, which means it stays in our system longer and has more pronounced effects on our sleep patterns, stress hormone production, and overall neural function. When you drink coffee first thing in the morning, you're not just getting a temporary energy boost, you're triggering a cascade of neurochemical changes that interfere with your brain's natural rhythms and create a state of artificial alertness that your brain begins to depend on, making it harder and harder to think clearly without caffeine. What makes this even more problematic is that the immediate consumption of caffeine upon waking disrupts the delicate balance of neurotransmitters that your brain needs for optimal cognitive function, particularly dopamine and serotonin, which are crucial for focus, memory, and mood regulation. When you flood your system with caffeine before these natural chemicals have had a chance to reach their optimal levels, you're essentially forcing your brain to operate in a state of chemical imbalance that manifests as mental fog, difficulty concentrating, and cognitive confusion throughout the day. The tragic irony is that most seniors drink coffee in the morning because they want to feel more alert and mentally sharp, but the immediate consumption of caffeine upon waking actually prevents their brain from achieving the natural state of alertness and clarity that would occur if they simply allowed their body's natural awakening process to unfold without chemical interference. Here's what's happening in your brain every morning when you immediately reach for that cup of coffee. First, you're blocking adenosine receptors before your brain has finished clearing the adenosine from your system, which creates a backup effect that can leave you feeling groggy and confused later in the day. Second, you're interfering with your natural cortisol production, which is designed to peak in the morning to help you feel alert and focused, but when you add caffeine to the mix, you're creating an overstimulation effect that can lead to anxiety, jitters, and paradoxically, mental fog rather than clarity. Third, you're setting up a blood sugar roller coaster that affects your brain's ability to maintain steady energy and focus throughout the day, because caffeine consumption, especially on an empty stomach, can cause rapid spikes and crashes in blood glucose levels that directly impact cognitive function. The cumulative effect of these disruptions is that your brain never gets the chance to establish its own natural rhythm and baseline of alertness, which means you become increasingly dependent on external stimulation to feel mentally sharp, and over time, this dependency actually diminishes your brain's natural ability to produce the clarity and focus you're seeking. What makes this particularly devastating for seniors is that the aging brain is already dealing with natural changes in neurotransmitter production, blood flow, and cellular function, and when you add the daily disruption of immediate caffeine consumption, you're essentially preventing your brain from adapting to these changes and finding its new optimal balance. Instead of allowing your brain to develop new patterns of alertness and clarity that work with your changing physiology, you're forcing it to rely on a chemical crutch that becomes less effective over time and requires increasing amounts to achieve the same effect. The solution isn't necessarily to eliminate caffeine entirely from your life, but rather to change the timing of when you consume it to work with your brain's natural rhythms rather than against them. The optimal approach is to wait at least 90 minutes to 2 hours after waking before consuming any caffeine, which gives your brain time to complete its natural awakening process and establish its baseline level of alertness and mental clarity. During this waiting period, you can support your brain's natural awakening process by engaging in activities that gently stimulate alertness without overwhelming your system, such as drinking a glass of water to rehydrate after the night's fast, doing some light stretching or movement to increase blood flow, spending a few minutes in natural sunlight to help regulate your circadian rhythms, or engaging in a brief mindfulness practice that helps center your thoughts and prepare your mind for the day ahead. When you finally do consume caffeine after this waiting period, you'll find that it has a much more positive effect on your mental clarity and focus because your brain has already established its natural baseline of alertness, and the caffeine can then enhance this natural state rather than replacing it. Many seniors who make this simple change in their morning routine report dramatic improvements in their mental clarity, focus, and overall cognitive function within just a few days, and they often discover that they need less caffeine overall to feel alert and sharp throughout the day. The key is understanding that your brain is incredibly sophisticated and has its own built-in systems for creating alertness and mental clarity, but these systems need time and space to function properly, and when you immediately flood your brain with caffeine upon waking, you're essentially short-circuiting these natural processes and forcing your brain to operate in a state of chemical dependency rather than natural vitality. Another crucial aspect of this morning habit change is what you replace the immediate caffeine consumption with, because simply waiting to drink coffee without engaging in other brain-supporting activities won't give you the full benefit of allowing your natural awakening process to unfold. The most effective approach is to create a morning routine that actively supports your brain's transition from sleep to wakefulness, which might include drinking a large glass of water to rehydrate your brain and body, doing some gentle movement or stretching to increase blood flow and oxygenation, spending time in natural light to help regulate your circadian rhythms and support natural cortisol production, and engaging in a brief mental activity that gently stimulates your cognitive function, without overwhelming your system. The goal is to work with your brain's natural processes rather than against them, and to establish a morning routine that sets you up for optimal mental clarity and cognitive function throughout the day. Many seniors resist making this change because they're afraid they'll feel groggy and unable to function without their immediate morning coffee, but what they discover is that after just a few days of allowing their brain to establish its natural awakening rhythm, they actually feel more alert and mentally sharp than they have in years. The natural alertness that comes from allowing your brain to complete its own awakening process is more sustainable, more stable, and more supportive of overall cognitive health than the artificial alertness that comes from immediate caffeine consumption. It's also important to consider the other factors that can enhance or undermine your brain's natural awakening process, such as the quality of your sleep, your evening routine, your stress levels, and your overall health habits. When you combine the practice of delaying caffeine consumption with other brain-healthy habits like getting adequate sleep, managing stress, eating a nutritious diet, and staying physically active, you create a comprehensive approach to cognitive health that can dramatically improve your mental clarity and overall brain function. The beautiful thing about making this change is that it doesn't require any special equipment, supplements, or expensive treatments. It's simply a matter of understanding how your brain works and adjusting your morning routine to support its natural processes rather than undermining them. If you're currently someone who reaches for coffee the moment you wake up, I encourage you to experiment with waiting just 1 hour before consuming caffeine and see how you feel. You might be surprised to discover that your natural alertness and mental clarity are much stronger than you realized, and that by working with your brain's natural rhythms rather than against them, you can achieve the mental sharpness and cognitive vitality that you've been seeking through external stimulation. The change might feel challenging for the first few days as your brain adjusts to its new routine, but most people find that the benefits become apparent quite quickly, and within a week or two, they can't imagine going back to their old habit of immediate caffeine consumption. Remember, your brain is an incredible organ with sophisticated systems designed to support optimal cognitive function, but these systems need the right conditions to work properly. When you honor your brain's natural processes and create a morning routine that supports rather than undermines its function, you're not just improving your mental clarity for today, you're investing in your long-term cognitive health and setting yourself up for years of sharp, clear thinking. The choice you make about when to consume caffeine might seem small, but its impact on your daily cognitive function and overall brain health is enormous. Every morning that you choose to work with your brain's natural awakening process rather than against it is a morning that you're supporting your cognitive vitality and investing in your mental clarity for the years ahead. As you consider making this change, remember that the goal isn't to eliminate all the things you enjoy about your morning routine, but rather to optimize the timing and sequence of your habits to support your brain's natural function. You can still enjoy your coffee and the ritual of your morning beverage, you're just shifting the timing slightly to work with your brain rather than against it. The result is that you'll enjoy your coffee more because you'll be able to truly appreciate its effects on an already alert and clear mind, rather than using it as a crutch to overcome the grogginess and confusion that comes from interrupting your brain's natural awakening process. This simple change in your morning routine can be the key to unlocking the mental clarity and cognitive sharpness that you thought might be lost forever, and it's a perfect example of how small adjustments in our daily habits can have profound impacts on our overall brain health and quality of life. Your brain wants to serve you well and provide you with the mental clarity and cognitive function you need to enjoy your golden years to the fullest. All it needs is for you to work with its natural processes rather than against them, and the transformation in your daily mental clarity can be truly remarkable.